Hey, Logan, can you hear me?
Yeah.
Okay, I'm gonna stop the recording. I'm gonna pass out some homework and then I'll start the recording again.
Okay.
Bear with me here. And I did just upload Monday's recording if you want to look at that later.
All right. Thanks.
All right, so what you had to do with for chapter 3 was you had to look at the new tax tables. And so, and then you had to answer the question based on the new tax tables for 2021. So they got rid of the exemptions and they just have the standard deduction. So the question was, what is the taxable income for this person? And so their taxable income, she made 14,500 in wages and then 8,200 in tips. So her income, her gross income is 2,700. The standard deduction for single in 2021 is 12,550. So the taxable income is 10,150. So let me ask you this question. If you have income of less than, if you're single and you have income of less than 12,550, do you have to file a tax return? You're not required to, but I would anyway. If you have any type of income, I would file a tax return. Why? Because who can predict the future? COVID hit, the government starts giving out stimulus checks, and if you had filed a tax return, you get it was much easier to get a check. So you should file a return regardless, even if you are making this much money. Okay, so that's the taxable income. That's number one. Okay, and then for number 2, you can't take both. I think they're asking if you can take the exemption. Forgot what that was. What does that say? Oh yeah, standard and itemized. No, you can't take both. Of course, it's either or. So most of us aren't going to have enough now to itemize our deductions because it's 12,550 if you're single. If you're married, you would have to have deductions of 25,100. So most people don't get there. So you're just going to take the standard one, but you can't do both, the standard and the itemized. So like typically what you do, like you go through these software programs, like TurboTax, they'll ask you all these questions, you enter it all in, and they'll tell you which is better. They'll tell you what your itemized deductions are. Okay, so then so anyway, if they're married, so then the question is, what is the she's been dating and or this Julia, I guess this is a guy. So he's been dating Elizabeth Moore for 4 years, and does it make any difference whether they stay single or get married? And actually it doesn't. So if you do these numbers here, if single, so if they're single, the first 9,950 is at 10%. So that's going to be 995 is the tax liability, and then the last $200 is at 12%. So that's going to be $24. And okay, so this is what you should have gotten for the first part of problem 3. If they each file as a single person, they're going to pay 10% on the first 995. Remember, their taxable income is 10,150. I'm sorry, this is 9. Yeah, that's right. Okay, and then the next $200 is at 12%. So this is what their tax liability is each, $1,019. And so the total is going to be 2,038. Did you all get that? Okay. All right. And so then if they're married, if they're gonna be married filing jointly. All right, so if they were married, they're making 45,400 together minus the 2,500. So it's exactly double. 20,300 is their taxable income instead of 10,150. So they're gonna, so this is gonna equal, they're gonna pay 10% on the first 19,900. That's 1990. And then 12% at 400. Which is 48. Okay, so it doesn't matter. They're going to pay, if they file single, they each are going to pay half of that. If they file joint, it's the same. Their taxes, there's no advantage of getting married as far as the taxes in this situation.
Accidentally did it like the wrong way at first, like not using the 2021.
Mm-hmm.
And that was legit, but it was different.
How much? Yeah, it used to be different.
Yeah.
It used to be, was it more? Did they save when they were married? Or pay more?
I looked it up because I was curious. It actually used to call it a penalty tax. If you don't know.
That's what I thought, a marriage penalty.
That's up to marriage because it was like taking my life.
Right. So, but you're better off, go ahead, Andre. You're better off filing, if you're married, you're better off doing married doing married filing jointly. Some people will file separately if they're married. For example, I had a friend of a friend of a friend who the wife didn't like what the husband was doing because he wasn't claiming a bunch of income. And so they were doing the married filing separately, which I said is really stupid because, well, I mean, not for her.
Still be liable.
Yeah, you really could still be liable because if it happened when you're married, now that's why she was doing the filing separately, but the IRS could still try to find you liable.
Yeah.
So.
Because she knew that. And she didn't follow
Exactly.
something.
Yeah, probably. So, there's all kinds of gray areas with the laws. And speaking of that, I found out something really interesting the other day. Let me make this long story short. My daughter, this is more for the insurance class next semester, but I wanted to share this with you because this is something I didn't know about that's really important. So my daughter has this, she's an optometrist. She has an optometry business. So lesson learned, do not have your employees go pick up your kid from daycare. So she had this situation about a year ago where she was slammed and she didn't have the car. She asked one of her employees to go, can you go pick up my son from daycare? So the employee goes to pick up the son from daycare, gets in a car wreck. And the employee should have just, I mean, if it was me, my insurance would cover it. I wouldn't have said, oh, I was driving my car because my boss asked me to go get her kid. Well, she let that slip and she's got this person, and the victim has this personal injury lawyer. And I just can't believe, it's ridiculous. I cannot believe that we're not passing these laws to limit this craziness. It's like all the doctors are in on it. It was a fender bender. And the State Farm has sued all the way up to the limit of $100,000. And now they're trying to sue my daughter. And so anyway, this is the point I'm making with this. So this sleazebag lawyer is like going out on Google and looking at all this information to try to see if my daughter has any money. And so her lawyer is saying, look, she just graduated from college. She doesn't have any money. She has student loans. Her husband works for the Army Corps. He makes this government employee, blah, blah, blah. Anyway, the lawyer wants to know, the lawyer calls a couple of weeks ago and asks, is she married or divorced? So get this, if you're divorced, but you share joint custody and you like pick your kids up from school and stuff, and your ex-spouse is sued, you can be sued too. Simply because you share joint custody. which that to me, that's the craziest thing I've ever heard of. But, I'll let you know how this pans out.
What were
because-
the lawyers that were going after? Like, what city were they based in?
St. Tammany. And so I'll let you know, because if you get in a car wreck, or anytime there's any type of litigation, you have 1 year to file suit. Well, the 1 year anniversary is October 6th.
That's
So,
why our insurance rates are so expensive.
yeah, it is, it's ridiculous. It is.
My mom had something similar with some lawyers in New Orleans, and they're sleazy.
Well, yeah, what her lawyer was saying, that it's really good that you're in St. Tammany Parish, because they know you have a business here, you pay taxes. They're not into giving money to these lawyers. But if you're in Arlene's Parish, I guess it's
It
really
was
bad.
like, one of the lawyers, she needed to get a lawyer in New Orleans, so one of the ones she went to
Mhm.
was working with the lawyer that was suing her. Like, it was some twisted shit.
Yeah, it's really terrible. And that's why Wendy's right, that's why our insurance rates are so high. It's crazy. Anyway, but that was news to me. If you're divorced and you share kids and share custody, they can still try to come after you. So hopefully we'll get some reform in the laws here. Okay, let me, oh, does anybody want to bring an article in on Monday? It's a current event, get it out of the way. Come on, you've got 5 days to search for an article. Write it out.
I found an article that said.
Okay, all right. So here's a good one. The government may shut down on Friday. So the end of the month, or I guess Thursday's the 30th, right? Yeah, tomorrow. So they're talking about a government shutdown possibly. So that could be something you could.
What's the odds on that?
Well, it's happened before for a couple weeks. I honestly, I've been so busy, I haven't really been paying that much attention to it. But I thought they solved the problem a couple weeks ago, but I guess not. So it could happen for a few days. And, but like I was telling you, my son-in-law works for the Army Corps of Engineers. He's a government employee. It's happened before when Trump was president, and they didn't get paid. They were like on furlough for a
Yeah,
couple
didn't they
weeks.
close all the parks, the national parks and all? this?
Yeah.
Barricades.
Mhm. Right. So all I can say about it for us, if that happens, it's a buying opportunity in the stock market, because it'll probably make the market go down. So it would be a definite buying opportunity. Did I tell you all that you have to get vaccinated or write a statement? Did you guys know that? Okay. Or you can write a statement, a philosophical statement as to why you do not want to get vaccinated. Okay, oh, this is where we left off, I remember. Okay, so let me, there's a couple things in the textbook that I wanted to mention too. Oh, on page 131, right at the beginning of the chapter, section 4.1, they tell you, they mention a really good website. It's called bankrate.com. That, you can search that to find out what banks are offering the best rates. And if you're want to look for online banks, or if you want to look at what banks are offering those best rates in your zip code, you can use bankrate.com. That's okay. And then on exhibit 4-2 or 4.2, they talk about the various depository institutions that we talked about on Monday, commercial banks, savings and loans, savings banks and credit unions. So my summation of all that is the credit union is the best deal. If you're eligible to belong to a credit union, I would take advantage of that. So let's talk about this. When are our funds insured and when are they not insured? So let's say that I open up an account at Fidelity or Schwab or Robinhood, Vanguard Mutual Fund. And I have all my money in cash there. I don't even have it in something. But well, let's say I have invested. I've invested my money and I lose everything. Is my money insured?
If it's invested, for sure.
No, it's not. So if you these brokerage houses, these brokerage accounts, your money is not insured. Now, it's not insured for investment losses. It is insured for fraud. So if you have, theoretically, if you have your money in Robinhood and it's just in cash and they do something nefarious and you lose all your money, you should be covered. So at these brokerage houses, you're covered for fraud, but you're not covered for investment losses. So when we talk about the deposit insurance, that has to be at a bank. It has to be at a financial institution, a bank or a credit union, savings and loan. And so the insurance for years was only $100,000. The FDIC insurance. It started in the 30s because there would be these bank runs where people they didn't trust the banks, and if they thought we were going to, if they thought the economy was going into a recession, they would rush and want to get their money out of the banks. Banks would fail, and then people would lose all their money. And so in order to make the whole industry more stable, that the FDIC they developed this FDIC insurance, $100,000. Well, believe it or not, it was still $100,000 in 2007 when we had this whole recession, this whole meltdown in the financial economy. So in the economy and in the financial sector. So a lot of people were saying, hey, the 100,000 is not enough. It's been like 80 years. You need to up that. So they increased it to 250,000. That's still not enough for a lot of people. If you think about it, let's say you're retired and you've got $1 million liquid. You have $1 million out there, or say $500,000. It's not unusual for people who are retired to have over $250,000 in savings that they've accumulated over their lifetime. So if you want to make
that mean you'd have to have 4 accounts?
well, actually, if it's a joint account, it's up to 500. So it would mean you'd have to have 2 accounts. So if you have $500,000 theoretically, and you have it in, and you want to have it guaranteed or have it insured, you would have to have 2 joint accounts, you and your spouse, at 2 different financial institutions. So have one at a credit union, have one at a bank, or what have you. So the 250,000 is per depositor. So if it's a joint account, then it's 500,000. So always, and so that's money. Like if I had money that I wanted to just have sitting in cash, I would just put it I'd probably go with the Metairie Bank. I was telling you, Metairie Bank has good CD rates. I put it with the Metairie Bank. That would be federally insured. Now my mother had this friend who she got this. Actually, it was her brother. So it was my uncle's friend. This lady got this settlement. She got in a car accident in California. Probably went to a personal injury lawyer. Got this settlement. Anyway, she had a settlement of $400,000, and she invested it with IndyMac. IndyMac is they were a mortgage company. They went out of business over the whole financial meltdown. Well, IndyMac offered her. They probably said, "Oh, we've got these really great rates. These really great investment accounts." And I'm sure they led her to believe it was just like a guinea. Well, they go under. And she lost all that money. It wasn't insured. I don't know if she got any of it back, but you know, you have to be careful of what's insured and what's not insured, who's insured and who's not, because like these mortgage, some of these mortgage companies who offer investments, they're not insured. It's gotta be a financial institution. So just check, if you have relatives who have a substantial amount of savings, just make sure that it's with a credit union or a bank. Brianna?
Do they have like banks for like billionaires? So like,
Yeah, it's
like
called,
which is insured for higher than that amount because they have so much money?
yeah, it's called offshore. No, they don't. So the billionaires have all these, they're connected supposedly. You know, you read these stories, you don't know if it's true or not, but supposedly they're connected and have all these offshore accounts. You could have a Swiss account. I assume Swiss accounts are guaranteed.
Most of them just have, they buy assets. They don't have that much in cash. They're just worth that much because they have assets.
Yeah, like this personal injury attorney that may sue my daughter. I'll keep you posted on that. My daughter Googled him and found out that he has a house in Destin and a house in Aspen. So
They make so much money, it's.
they do. They make so much money. It's terrible. That's another reason why people are going to Texas, because Texas has they have tort reform, which is they've limited all these. So the next time you guys drive, if you have the opportunity to drive from here to Texas, whether it be on I-10 or I-90, I've driven a couple times on I-90, you know, been through Lafayette and into Texas, especially when you get down there around Morgan City, all you see are billboards of personal injury lawyers. As soon as you get to the Texas border, it stops because they can't make any money over there because they've limited these frivolous lawsuits. So anyway, and that's another reason why it's more favorable to do business in Texas than here. So anyway, back to this. Insurance on deposits. If it's a joint account, you're insured up to 500,000. I lost where I was. Okay. Okay, so checking accounts. Let's talk about, Brent was saying his parents still have a checkbook. I still have a
Oh, he
checkbook.
got 18,
Yeah.
yeah.
So, you know, I was doing business with someone your age, a few years ago. And I said, oh, you can just write me a check. And she said, oh, I don't have a checkbook. So she ended up doing Venmo or something, but I think it's good to have a checkbook, even if I don't write very many checks, but you just never know what can happen. If you go to a store, maybe it's a local hardware store and their internet's down, you don't have cash, they might still take a check. So I think it's good to have checks. You should at least know how to write a check out. But I think it's good to have checks. So write a check, use a debit card, make a cash withdrawal. That's what these checking accounts are for. So what do you think about debit card versus credit card? You guys use, I'm sure you all use debit cards, right?
I have one, doesn't mean I use it.
Huh?
I have one, doesn't mean I use it.
Yeah. So this is one thing that I found out when my daughter went off to college. She had a debit card and she couldn't manage her money. And so she had this debit card through Chase and it was always going, short of funds. She was getting all these fees. And so because she just refused to balance a checkbook. So I went to Chase and I found out when you open an account, these banks automatically enroll you in the protection where if you use a debit card and you don't have enough funds, they're going to let it go through. They're telling us, oh, well, that's to protect you. No, it's not to protect us. It's because they want to rack up all these fees. And so you can just tell them, you can opt out of that. And then if you don't have enough money, it just won't go through. No big deal. So anyway, there's some, I like a debit card, but there's some things that I'll never use a debit card for. Number one, at a gas station, because I had a debit card that was skimmed at a gas station one time. So these skimmers, now some of these debit cards have chips. The newer gas stations, they have a chip thing instead of a swipe where you insert the card with the chip. That's probably better. for the skimmers, but I don't ever use a debit card at a gas station. Yeah, I'll use a debit card at the grocery store mainly. Never use a debit card at a hotel because they will add the deposit. So, you know, when you check into a hotel, they might add a deposit of $100 to $500 to secure the room and for incidentals. Well, if it's a debit card, they're gonna lock up that amount in your checking account. So that next time you go to a hotel, most of them have those signs up there warning people about that. I actually have started using a credit card more and more than a debit card because this is the other reason. If you have to contest a charge, it's really difficult with the debit card. I have found the American Express is awesome, American Express card. If you, and I know that's probably seems kind of old fashioned to some of you to have an American Express card, but they always side on the consumer. They always side on our side. It's so easy. I mean, even compared to a Visa or a MasterCard, if you have to contest something, you just go online, you dispute a charge. That's what they call it, disputing a charge. And I know from people I have who are business owners, they just stop paying the person. And it's really, the onus is on the proprietor to really try to make a case. So anytime I have any kind of dispute, if it's a recurring charge or something, I just I'll just dispute it. So I like to use an American Express, and I found them to be the best. My daughter had to dispute something with Visa, and they gave her a big hassle. So anyway, if you have a chance, American, just keep that in mind if you want to get a credit card.
Discover is very good with that too.
Discover is too. So listen to this. So we were evacuated for the storm. We were up in Natchez, Mississippi. Okay. And so my husband says, on Monday, let's try to get closer to Louisiana. Let's go to Biloxi. And so I look up hotels.com, which I use all the time. I make a reservation for Biloxi. Then we found out we had power we have a place in Wavewood, Mississippi. We found out we had power there. So then the next day I try to get a refund. Of course, they're going to charge you for one night from Biloxi. And so I call hotels.com. They can't get a hold of Harris at Biloxi. So they're refusing to take the one night off. So I just disputed it with American Express and done. That was in 48 hours. It was done. So anyway, so that's something to remember. And like Brianna said, it sounds like Discover is good too. So you want to use these companies that give you the best experience. Okay. So money market funds, as I mentioned, that's just like a checking account, but it's typically it pays a little bit more interest. The interest may not be guaranteed. What they're doing is they're taking your money and they're investing in short-term debt securities and short-term bonds and stuff. So you get a little bit more interest. Also, another thing that's becoming more popular, especially with online banking, is it's nice to have an account where they reimburse you for your ATM charges. So they want us to use ATMs because it's cheaper for them for us to go to an ATM than to actually go and talk to a teller. So try to get an account or with a credit union or a bank that will reimburse your ATM fees. Okay, so here's the debit card versus credit card. So use the debit card sparingly. It's nice to have it for convenience, but if I like to use the American Express card, just pay it off monthly for a lot of things
I know
because.
a lot of
Andre?
I guess rich people, they don't even own debit cards. Like, why would you not just use a credit card where you can get paid to use it and just pay it off straight from your account every month instead of carrying a debit card?
Yeah.
Treat it like a debit card.
Yeah, just use,
I
exactly.
don't use my debit card at all. I use my credit.
Yeah, I've been using it less and less. But yeah, you're right. So this is what the credit card companies hate. Now, American Express, they want they have the traditional American Express card is where you pay it off monthly. And they charge, there's a fee like $30 a year or something. But these credit card companies, they don't want you to pay off your monthly balances. They do not like those kind of customers. They want you to keep a balance, and then they want you to, of course, pay the interest. And so if you're gonna get a credit card, plan on paying it off monthly. Get one that doesn't have an annual fee, I mean, unless it's American Express, but a Discover card is a good card. Doesn't have an annual, they don't have an annual fee, just pay it off monthly.
There's
I
student
don't know the
ones.
regular ones.
And you get
There's
cash back.
student one doesn't have a fee and you get a year without interest.
Yeah. So the year without interest thing is good, and
They
just
have
make sure you pay that off before the year's up, because
Yeah, they have
probably, if they tell you a year without interest, what, in the 13th month, they're gonna probably charge you all the back interest on the balance that you have.
Compound.
They're compounded, yeah.
So what happens, say like you're part of an organization and you get fined for not doing something, and then you just don't pay it, then what happens?
You get sent to collections.
You mean on your credit card?
Whatever it's hooked up to, it doesn't matter.
Yeah, it'll end up getting sent to collections. It's gonna affect your credit score. You need to take care of that, because the late payments can really,
You can build up.
it can build up and really affect your credit score. So when I worked as a financial planner, I'll tell you this really quick story. We did all this stuff with our clients, and one of it was, we would ask them, would you like us to look at your credit and get a credit report on you and review it, blah, blah, blah. And so most of them said yes, because a lot of times, you have old cards out there. It's just good to see what's going on to clean it up. So we had this client, really rich, and their kids were super irresponsible. And so he says, oh yeah, run the credit report for us, because I want to show my daughters, what a good credit score is, and I'm going to use it as a lesson on my daughters, blah, blah, blah. So we run this report on this guy and his wife. His credit score is like 500 something. That's super low. So he had this $35 charge on a Visa card that was mailed to their antique store on Magazine Street and not at their house. And a year and a half goes by, and they just never, for some reason, never saw the bill. I don't know how they could have not seen it, because it was coming monthly. But my point is, all the fees and having a late payment, for all that time, dropped his credit score down to like 5 something. So then, needless to say, he said, oh yeah, just forget about the full credit score thing. I'm not gonna talk to my kids about that. So anyway, like Brianna was saying, if you feel like you can be responsible with a credit card, just use a credit card, pay it off monthly, and you can build up lots of points. If it's mileage for flights, my American Express card, I get these points, and then I use it on Amazon to buy stuff. And so you can, it helps you. Okay. So you all know you can do the direct deposits. We'll skip that section. Okay, all checks are not the same. So back in the dark ages, when you would travel, we used traveler's checks. And then if they were lost or stolen, you could get it back. That's what traveler's checks are. But let's just talk about these. If you want to pay somebody not in cash, or or not electronically, you can go to the bank and get a cashier's check. And basically it's a guaranteed check. They've already taken the money out of your account. A certified check, the bank is certifying that you have the funds. And then of course the different, and another thing of similar, that would be a money order that you could get from your bank or the post office. Okay, so it is good to have the overdraft protection on your checking account, because it's a huge hassle if you bounce, if you go negative and bounce a check or bounce a payment. And so I have the overdraft protection, and on rare occasions it'll happen. Over Hurricane Ida, I had an overdraft. So I just called the bank and I said, hey, I couldn't get to the bank because of the hurricane. Can you waive the fees as a one-time courtesy? And they'll do that. If you're not an habitual overdrafter, they'll do that. But it's good to have, because it's a big headache if you bounce something. All right, start a savings program. We've talked about that a lot. Pay yourself first. Use automatic payments and pay yourself first. Okay, CDs, here's some interest paying investments, CDs, T-bills, savings bonds. Savings bonds pay interest. They typically mature in 5 years. So if you buy a savings bond, or you may buy them for your nieces or nephews, or if you have savings bonds, if you buy a $50 savings bond, it would be $25. In 5 years, it's matured. But it continues to earn interest beyond those 5 years. So if you, like I said before, if you have any savings bonds, cash them in now while you're in college, because the interest is not taxable if you use it for education expenses. So I would cash them in now. They don't pay much interest anyway, so it's not something you really want to have as a long-term investment anyway. Okay, and then of course, compounding interest is you can really get ahead in life by saving because of the compound interest. So this is just showing you how much more interest you make based on compounding. And so if, in other words, not just based on compounding, if the compounding is more frequent, the frequency of compounding. So let's say that you were making 12%. Let's say you bought a bond. You bought a government, a corporate bond, and it was paying 12%. Well, if you're getting your interest payments every 6 months instead of every year, you're actually making 12.36%. Okay. In Finance 302, we go over that formula, the effective rate of return, but don't worry about that for this class. If it's quarterly, it is 12.55, monthly 12.68, and there's daily compounding too. So let's say you had a savings account that was actually earning 3%. Daily compound. Some savings accounts do compound daily. This is, I mean, they're not paying this much interest anymore, but compounded daily only gives you 0.05% more. But think of this now, not as a saver, but as a borrower. Let's say you have a credit card balance. They're charging you 12% and you're paying that monthly. You're really paying 12.68%, not 12%. So it works both ways. It can work against you if you owe people money. Okay, this is just the formula for the future value. And remember, the future value is the present value times 1 plus the interest rate to the nth power. For this class, there might be a homework assignment on that, but we're not going to go over all the time value of money calculations in this class. Okay, so this is it for chapter 4. So the chapter 4 homework will be due on Monday, and then we'll go over chapter 5. That's the last chapter before the first test. The Aquinas, is that how you say that? Aquinas Center? The Aquinas Center is giving away free jambalaya today from 11 to 2. If you want to go over there for a free lunch.
Checking it on Dewey or?
They didn't say, they just said, that's probably chicken and not Dewey. It's not gonna be chicken. But jambalaya, probably chicken and not Dewey, 11 to 2. Have a good day.
Checking it on Dewey?
I don't have internet quite yet, so. Okay, that's fine. Thank you.